Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to be showing you an in-depth look at my entire Star Wars The Black Series collection. I've been collecting this line since 2015. It all started off with Commander Cody, Kylo Ren, and the Guavian Death Gang Enforcer. And now look what it's grown to. We have 2 bookshelves, 1 display case, and then an IKEA detolf. So we're going to start with the white bookshelf, then move on to the black bookshelf, the black display case, and then the detolf. I have them separated. This white bookshelf is the first 6 movies plus the Clone Wars. These are the newer movies from Disney. This is all Disney Plus and, miscellaneous figures. And then this IKEA detolf is just a mix of kind of anything Star Wars that doesn't have a true place in the collection. So let's begin with the first shelf. So starting off, we have this white bookshelf in the corner of the room. And from the top, we have George Lucas. This whole shelf is just pretty much the first 6 movies as well as the Clone Wars. I kind of consider it as the staple of what George Lucas helped create and make Star Wars what it is today. So we have him at the top. And then we have A New Hope. So we have a few troopers, that old Han from the Blue Line. This is actually the Inferno Squad agent, but I kind of using them as a TIE fighter pilot. Darth Vader, Tarkin. We have the old Luke in the back. Leia. This is the brand new Luke I just got. It's Han, Greedo, X-Wings, more Lukes. I'm missing Ponda Baba, which just was focused on Dr. Evazan in the back. There we go. I'm missing Ponda Baba, and I want to get the new Leia, Chewie, and Han. I think I'm gonna get Chewie next, actually. And then we have my Empire Strikes Back shelf. So I kind of tried to separate this in the order of what happens in the movie. So here we have everything Hoth as well. And we have Dagobah, Luke and Yoda with Dirty R2, C-3PO, then the main Bespin crew leading into the final battle between Luke and Vader. Then we have the bounty hunters in the back. So really like how this shelf came out. This is actually my favorite Star Wars movie too, so I'm glad I have it so well represented in the shelf. Moving on, we have Return of the Jedi. Sorry, trying to get everything into frame. So this is a really well done shelf in my opinion of how I separated it. So we have everything from Tatooine and Jabba's palace on the left. And then we have this 3-tier acrylic riser with the middle of the movie, pretty much everything Endor or Endor adjacent. We have General Lando and Admiral Akbar at the top. The main crew and their Endor get-ups. Scout Trooper, some Ewoks, Wicket the Goat, Princess Leia, Ewok Village. I'm thinking I'm going to get the Rebel Trooper and put him next to Leia, and I eventually want to get a speeder bike, whether it be with a new trooper or not, but I want to try to put him in this little corner, or if not, I'll put him over there. And then we have the end battle of Return of the Jedi, where we have Luke in the throne room. And I'm missing the Darth Vader, I'm missing the Force Ghost. All figures I want to get, I just, a lot of other figures to get. And then the start of the prequels, so we're heading towards the bottom of the shelf a little bit. So we have the Phantom Menace on the left side. I'm missing Qui-Gon. I'm missing the Droideka as well. I really want to get a Qui-Gon figure. I just can't justify the 3-pack right now. It's not really worth it. I'm fine with this Obi-Wan. I would not mind a new Darth Maul figure, and I could put this one in the back and put like the cloak on him with the binoculars, but it's just not really worth it right now. Like I said, there's too many other figures I want to get as opposed to a $70 3-pack which only has 1 figure I don't have. We have Jar Jar, Padme, and Anakin. I really hope they make more Padmes as well. I really like this figure. I would not mind a Padme from each movie, and then we can get up into more of her obscure outfits. And then we have another acrylic riser. with Attack of the Clones, which is mostly prequel Jedi. We have some troopers. We have an ARC trooper, and then a Phase 1 trooper. And then this actually looks really cool right here. So we have Count Dooku and a battle droid from Geonosis in the back, and then the main prequel trio, and then prequel Jedi. I'm thinking once I eventually get Ki-Adi-Mundi, Shaak Ti, Luminar Unduli, and Barriss Offee, I'll have to move these Jedi around, but I still have plenty of room on these two shelves, which is good. And then ending the prequel shelf with Revenge of the Sith, we have General Grievous in the back, who cannot stand, so I have him leaning against an acrylic riser. The horrendous Archive Obi-Wan, cannot wait for the upgrade. And then we have the brand new Commander Cody I just picked up, awesome figure, Darth Sidious, and Commander Bakara. I did not pre-order the 2-pack of Anakin Obi-Wan. As much as I really want to get it, I can't justify $110 for only 2 figures, because I personally don't really even have the room for the 2 Mustafar blocks, I guess you want to call them, the stands. You know, look at this prequel shelf. There's not a lot of room for 2 stands as well as 2 other figures. I kind of just want the Anakin Obi-Wan. And I do really want the accessories, and I wouldn't mind an extra Obi-Wan head to put on the archive, but it's just a little too much for me. That's the prequel shelf. And last but not least on this white bookshelf, we have my Clone Wars shelf. So we have a commando droid, a few random clone troopers. We have Wolf, Bly, Gree, and then Fox. And then we have the clone Commander Obi-Wan with the old Commander Cody, because I don't want to have 2 on the same shelf. We have Ventress, Aurra Sing, Death Watch, and we have the Delta Squad. These 4 figures look absolutely incredible together. So glad I have these 4. And then we have Hawk, Ahsoka, the Anakin Clone Wars. I do really want to get the Clone Wars Obi-Wan. I did pick up the Ahsoka flashback version of the Clone Wars figure, and I was thinking about putting it here, but I didn't really know what to do with this one, so I figured I'll just keep this one here, and then hopefully eventually get Obi-Wan and the Trooper. We have Captain Rex, and then we have my Siege of Mandalore display. So we have the Mandalorian, Darth Maul, who cannot stand for me because his I think it's his right leg that's really loose, so I have him standing on a base. Then we have Ahsoka and the 332nd clone. All in all, I'm very happy with this Clone Wars shelf. I'm missing a lot of clones. I definitely would like to get more, but my big thing with collecting figures is that if there's a named figure over a random trooper army builder, I'm probably going to get the named figure, so that's why I'm missing a lot of droids and random troopers like stormtroopers. Like, I really want a lot of more stormtroopers in my collection. I feel like I kind of have like none, which does make me a little sad, but you know, I'm a sucker for like, you know, the 10th Obi-Wan they've made or whatever. So this is my white bookshelf, which is once again my original trilogy and prequel trilogy shelf, and I am really happy with how this turned out. I am very excited to get the updated Han, Leia, and Chewbacca, and any other more figures. Although for the most part, I think the original trilogy shelf is relatively complete. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the black bookshelf. So moving on to my black bookshelf, we have all of the newer Star Wars movies. So starting from the top, we have Solo, A Star Wars Story. And for this shelf, I kind of went in timeline order. So Solo comes first. I have pretty much a good bulk of the Solo figures. I'm missing Enfys Nest, the Range Trooper, the Mimban Trooper, and then Han in his Mud Trooper disguise. Probably skip out on the Troopers, but I really want to get that Enfys Nest figure. So I've got these figures in the back. And then moving on, we have Rogue One. So I'll show the back figures first. This is the old Jyn, the new Saw, old K2, and old Cassian. Then Jyn on Edu. Then a Death Trooper, Short Trooper, another Death Trooper, Krennic, Galen, Jyn, Cassian, Bodhi, Chirrut, and Baze. I do not have any of the new Rogue One figures. I just didn't really think it was worth it. I love Rogue One. Rogue One is maybe my second favorite Star Wars movie if I really had to like rank them. But I just didn't think the figures themselves were that worth it. I do want to get the Season 2 Andor figure and put him on the Rogue One shelf. So I can stop having this figure with the very outdated head sculpt and doesn't look too much like Diego Luna. But that's, just a possibility. So then moving on, we have the sequels now. This is my Force Awakens shelf. Here we have Rey on the speeder bike, and random Rey on Jakku that the seller actually gave me this figure as well. This Rey is not focusing, but that's okay. Then we have Rey on Starkiller Base. I really loved when Black Series did like these single packs with like bases kind of the environment. I really wish they would keep doing that. But this is just a nice acrylic base I have for my Force Awakens figures. I think they look nice. I heard there's a rumor that they're supposed to re-release some Force Awakens figures for the 10-year anniversary. And I definitely want to get a new Rey and a Finn, hopefully a Poe. Don't know if I'll get a new Kylo unless it has a head sculpt. But other than that, I'm pretty fine with how the shelf looks, and I actually really like how it came out. So then moving on, we have The Last Jedi. So start over here, we have some figures on the base. Just a simple shelf. They haven't made too many figures. And then we have Rey in crate, and then we have the other crate rock base. This is actually the old head sculpt for Rey, because this is what I'm using. I really think this looks really nice. And I don't really think there's too many other figures that I'm missing from The Last Jedi. At least none that I can think of. And then moving on to the last portion of this black shelf, we have The Rise of Skywalker. This is probably the smallest shelf. Yeah, this is definitely the smallest shelf I own, which is a shame. I do really enjoy this movie. I enjoy all of the Star Wars projects. But, I wish we had a Palpatine, maybe even another Rey with a yellow lightsaber, a Poe, a Finn. I mean, a Ben Solo figure seems like a no-brainer. But here we have, I don't remember what brand this was, but it was more of like the 5-point articulation figures, and they did a droid 3-pack, and it was relatively cheap, and it was 3 droids I didn't really have for the sequel shelf, so I figured it was perfect. And then we do have some Black Series. We have an Astromech and a Mouse Droid. And then I threw in Captain Cardinal there because he's, sequel adjacent. I don't know the name of this pilot. I know he was a driver. He came in that Galaxy's Edge 3-pack, I believe. And then we got General Hux, Sith Trooper, Flame Trooper, Zori Bliss, Jaina, and then we have Kylo Ren and Rey. So that is my entire, it's pretty much the Disney shelf. That is my entire Disney shelf, and here's also my other movie shelf. So now we are going to be moving on to the next shelf, which is pretty much everything Disney Plus. So moving on to the black display case, we're going to start off at the top left, where this is my whole Kenobi shelf. I am really pleased with this shelf. I love this show a lot. I'm a big defender of it. I acknowledge its flaws, but I'm really glad I have a whole shelf dedicated. And it's pretty packed, which honestly is really surprising how many figures they made for this show. And we're still missing a few. I'd love a little Leia, little Luke even, Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. That'd be a really cool 2-pack or something. But yeah, I mean, just seeing Ewan McGregor again as Obi-Wan and then Hayden as Anakin / Vader, just, dream come true. I'm not big into nostalgia bait shows and movies lately. As much as I do love them, it's nice to, see the characters done well. Even if the show is not perfect, I still really enjoyed it. And I'm really happy with how this shelf looks. So then moving on to my favorite piece of Star Wars media, we have my Andor shelf. It's pretty much just Andor Season 1 figures. There's not too many from Season 2. I think the only Season 2 figures technically are that Cassian, K2SO, and this Cassian, who's also kind of like a Rogue One figure. I don't know why we still haven't got a Cyril Karn figure. I'd love a Clea figure. You know, there's just so many figures they can make. And I understand they don't want to just keep making Cassians, but I will buy like every Cassian figure they make. I am a big fan of Cassian Andor. He's probably my favorite Star Wars character now. And it's not too surprising considering Andor is my favorite Star Wars project. But I really like how this shelf came out. So here is the top shelf. One last look at the Andor shelf. And moving down to probably my biggest shelf in the collection, we have my Mandalorian shelf. This is pretty much Mandalorian Season 1 and 2, as well as Book of Boba Fett. So here we have, I tried to layer them. If you see from the top, I tried to organize the figures from exactly when they show up. So Season 1 kind of drifts into the Jawa, the Enforcer, the Client, Moff Gideon, Incinerator Trooper, Cara Dune, Grief Karga, Beskar Mando, Queel, and then IG-11. And then we kind of go into Season 2 with the Tusken Raiders, Cobb Vanth, Boba Fett at the end, Grief Karga, Ahsoka, Din in his trooper disguise, as well as Migs, Hologram Bo-Katan, just because I didn't really know where else to put her, Dark Trooper, Moff Gideon. This is the Mandalorian R2-D2, and I have this spot open for the Mandalorian Luke Skywalker that I still haven't got. And then we kind of go into Book of Boba Fett. We have Luke, Tusken Raider, the Tusken Chieftain, Pike, Chrysanthemum, Black Chrysanthemum, awesome figure, Boba Fett, Fennec Shand, Luke Skywalker, another Grogu, Cobb Vanth, and then Cad Bane. This space is also open because I'm planning on getting another Glavis Ringworld Mando and kind of moving all these figures to the right and having Mando and Boba next to each other. I just don't know who I want to put Mando next to. Like, do I want to put him next to Fennec or Black Chrysanthemum? Or I might just put Fennec, or I might put Mando in Luke's spot and then move them over. I think that will look pretty good. So here is the whole Mando shelf. This is actually 3 acrylic risers. I used to have all these figures on 2 risers, and I had the front row all on the beginning of the shelf, kind of like the Kenobi. They were just chilling like right in this spot. But I wanted to really give them more room, and I really am happy how this looks. And now we're going to move on to the next shelf, which is also Mandalorian, but this is Mandalorian Season 3. And I'm a big fan of all the Mandoverse shows. I acknowledge a lot of the flaws that all the Star Wars shows have, but I'm a big fan of Bo-Katan, and I love Katie Sackhoff. So really glad she kind of got her own little season to star in. And I'm really happy with how this shelf looks. Start off in the back, we have some random Mandos, the Fleet Commander, a random Night Owl. We have Axe Woves and Casca Reeves, the Praetorian Guard, Moff Gideon, I cannot remember his name right now. That's embarrassing. Imperial Armored Commando, I think. Then we have IG-12, and I do have the Droid 3-pack, or I guess it's more of a 4-pack, with the 2 pit droids, R5, another pit droid, and then the BD unit. And I absolutely love this figure. I kind of wish the articulation was still a bit more. They still haven't really got a perfect Mando figure. And they don't have too many imports or anything like that. And Bo-Katan does have the Glavis Ringworld Darksaber. I really wanted to have this figure hold the Darksaber and his pistol, but because of his hand, you can't really have him holding that. So I just gave the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, and she pretty much has it most of the season anyway, so it kind of fits perfectly. Oh, at least in the cool action moments. But I'm really happy with how this shelf looks. And now I've delayed this video a few times from filming this because I wanted to try to flesh out my Ahsoka shelf more, because I have the new Anakin which I picked up last week from GameStop. And just yesterday, Ezra Bridger from Peridia came in the mail. So I wanted to hold off until I got Ezra to really show the shelf off. And this might be my favorite shelf in the collection. I am a huge Ahsoka fan, the character and the show. Star Wars Rebels is also one of my favorite projects, so it's no surprise that I'm a big fan of the Ahsoka show. You know, seeing Sabine and Hera in live action, Ezra as well. I wasn't a crazy fan of some of the writing for the characters in Ahsoka and the direction in terms of like visuals, so I'm hoping season 2 is a big improvement on that. But, you know, I'd be lying if I said I didn't cry at some of the moments and the reunions and everything, and I cannot wait to see season 2. So starting off at the top, this is the other Ahsoka version of the Ahsoka show. I picked it up, it was like $10 on Amazon, so I figured why not. The fifth brother? No, that's not the fifth brother. I cannot remember what Inquisitor number he was, but that's Marok. Actually, I don't think he had an Inquisitor number. I think he was just Marok. And then we have Ezra, the Flashback Lothal, Captain Enoch, Random Night Trooper, the Enforcer, Hu Yang, who I have on these really cool black stands because droid figures cannot stand, especially those two. We have Shin Hati. Focus, please, on Shin. I don't know why this is not focusing. All right, there we go. Oh, hang on, I lost it. Sorry. So we got Shin and Baylan. I do have Baylan on the Reva legs, the Reva legs, I should say. And I like how he looks when he's taller. We have Morgan Elsbeth, Grand Admiral Thrawn, and then we have Anakin, Sabine, Ahsoka, Ezra, and Hera. I didn't really know where to put Anakin on the shelf, mainly because he's really only in the show in flashbacks, and I do want to get the Captain Rex figure because I'm also a huge fan of Rex, so I'm thinking I'll maybe kind of take the Anakin and Rex and maybe put them off to the side over here. But I don't really know. And you'll notice I don't have any Skeleton Crew figures. I actually really, really love the show. I watched every single episode as soon as it came out, as I do with everything Star Wars. It's just, I just couldn't really bring myself to spend $25 on all the kid characters who sadly probably won't show up again in Star Wars. And they all just kind of, you know, got pretty expensive in the aftermarket. I do want to get Jod eventually. So I'm also thinking I'll kind of use this middle section as a Skeleton Crew display and get Jod, maybe one of the pirates, SM-33, and I don't know, maybe the Skeleton Crew kids one day. If I ever find them cheap, I'll pick them up, but, you know, it's just kind of sad. That's like the only show I really don't have represented on this shelf. But, so here is the 2023 Disney Plus section of my figures. And now moving on to non-Disney Plus, we actually have Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, two of my favorite Star Wars video games, and I am so glad to have so many figures on this shelf now. I got in 4 figures just in the last month, which is awesome. This little cardboard display came with the 3-pack droids of the Super Battle Droid, the Battle Droid, and the Magna Guard, and this KX unit cannot stand at all. I don't have any space I don't have any base or some sort of stand to stand him on. So I'm going to kind of make a little Empire display over here in the back and maybe get another Scout Trooper or put him over there. And I think that'll look pretty cool. And then moving on to the Survivor display, we do have the Super Battle Droid, the the GameStop Battle Droid, Cal Kestis, and I just got Merrin last week and I am obsessed with this figure. I mean, such an awesome figure. I love the little magic display, and I love how she can actually display like everything she has, because she has the knife in the back and it looks really good, and I like that it holds. We have Cal, the Magna Guard, who I got to stand on a little base, this Battle Droid, and I'm really happy with this shelf. I'm a huge fan of the Jedi games, and I cannot wait to see Jedi 3. And yeah, so that has been my black display case. And now we're going to move on to the final piece of my collection, which is my IKEA detolf. So moving on to my last portion of my Star Wars Black Series collection, we have this IKEA detolf. And this is pretty much just anything that doesn't really fit in either the movies or the Disney Plus section, just because I don't have nearly enough figures to warrant a whole shelf. So we're gonna start off at the bottom this time. So this is my, I guess it's my video game shelf. So here we have Star Killer up on top, the Trooper that came with him in the 3-pack, the Shadow Trooper. It's pretty much a Royal Guard figure. I can't remember this exact name. The Stormtrooper Commander, and then the other 3-pack Stormtrooper. Then we have Jackson, we have Dr. Aphra, and then we have Princess Leia. These three are comic characters, but they didn't really fit anywhere else on the shelf, so I figured they'd throw in with, you know, my video game characters, because they're all part of the same era, and I actually think they look really nice. Then moving on, we have my Star Wars Rebels collection, which is probably my favorite Star Wars show. The only figure I'm missing is Thrawn, and at this point, I don't even know if I even want to get a different Thrawn for the Rebels shelf. As much as I really do want to, I might just get another Ahsoka version of Thrawn and put him up here, because, you know, he fits well enough. There's a rumor there's supposed to be a Kanan with the blind mask on, which I will definitely get that. I will take as many Rebels figures as I can have. But I'm really happy with the shelf, you know. It's nice and sweet. It's only 7 figures, so it's kind of hard to warrant, you know, a whole shelf just for these. And then we have the Bad Batch, which I thought was a really, really good show. I kind of wish it explored more in the era, but I'm very glad we got it. And we have Crosshair in the back. I don't have any of the season 2 looks for the Bad Batch, except for Omega and the mercenary gear, mainly because I couldn't really justify spending over $100 for, you know, 4 figures. And don't get me wrong, I love their looks in season 2. We have Cad Bane in the back, Imperial Crosshair, Vice Admiral Rampart, and this is the older Ahsoka with the unmasked helmeted head sculpt. I just couldn't really, you know, find a way to spend $100 on figures I was pretty much happy with. And they're all exclusive, I think, to either Walmart or Target, and that's always a hassle to try to buy. And then the last shelf in the collection is actually a mix of the Old Republic and the Acolyte from the High Republic. I'm a big fan of the Acolyte. Like I said earlier, I'm a big fan of everything Star Wars, so, you know, I'm not a hateful person or a hateful Star Wars person. I enjoyed the show for what it was. I acknowledge it as flaws, and, you know, that's all I'll say at that. I really enjoyed some of the characters. And that 5th episode was the whole lightsaber battle. One of, like, the crazy Star Wars episodes I got to see live. I'm very happy I got to see that. So starting off in the back, we have Revan, Bastila Shan, Jedi Knight Revan, Zalabar, Malgus. Awesome figure. He can't really stand though, so I have him on a stand, and he's kind of leaning against the wall, but I think he looks really great. And then we have the hologram of May. I think I got this for like $2 on Walmart, so I figured why not. I don't really love the hologram figures all that much, but for $2, I'm not going to say no to a Black Series figure. And then we have Yord, Sol, Osha, May, and then Kelnaka. And this space is open because Kymir has finally been announced. I have not pre-ordered him yet because I did miss it on Amazon. And Amazon is typically where I pre-order everything. But as of right now, he's unavailable, but I will definitely be getting that figure. Kymir is one of my favorite my favorite characters from the Acolyte, and I'm super excited to have him represented in figure form. I'm really happy that he actually has 2 different head sculpts, one with the helmet and one without, but I do kind of wish he was able to hold the helmet. You might be able to disconnect the neck piece, but I don't know if I really want to go through all that. I think the helmet is one of the coolest Star Wars helmets we've ever seen, but I also think the likeness to the actor, Manny Jacinto, is incredible, so I want to have that represented as well. I'm going to see if, you know, how it works. I definitely don't think I'm going to have the plastic cape over him, but yeah, I am super excited to get that figure. And I want to thank everyone for watching. This has been my updated 2025 Star Wars Black Series collection. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.